I love the strong, crisp line as it flows across my paper. I love the feel of my pen as it dances. Sometimes a line, sometimes dots, dashes, squiggles. Each of the marks captures my imagination. It seems like suddenly there is life on my page. Rocks, branches, leaves, and still water begin to appear. My drawing takes on a life of its own. My name is Wendy Mould, and I am a pen artist. For me, drawing is almost a Zen-like activity. I get caught up in my drawing, and time just disappears. As I work, it's almost as if my marks are communicating with me. I can see shapes emerging, and immediately I began to visualize the properties that shape should have. Does it need shadows, maybe a few scuff marks, or some other characteristics that will give it life? It might only be a mark or two, but I love the power that mark has. It can change a sloppy circle into a rock with moss and plants on top and still water below. My journey as an artist began at an early age. At first, I worked with fiber and fabric, but I quickly headed outdoors, as that is where I really like to be. Hiking, camping, kayaking are favorites with me. Capturing the wildlife in my work is my passion. This means lots of sketching and photography to find just the right setting for my birds and animals. My dog Max and I can often be found by a quiet creek or sitting on a log on the beach. This is where my pen work first started. A good permanent ink pen meant I could quickly sketch my setting to save for later reference in my studio. It wasn't long before I was adding shading and color to my drawings. I enjoyed this kind of work, and at the same time, I found that I was becoming more confident in my line work, and I wanted to take it further. This was a new idea for me. In my studio, I always worked with my pencils. I love to draw, and I love realism. I found that my pencils gave me that. The feathers of my birds were delicate and soft. They looked alive. Even the slick fur of a seal shone in the sunlight and made me feel I was there. At first, I used to think that the harsh line of ink just wouldn't work with my wild animals. I wouldn't be able to create the kind of realism that I wanted. But I must admit, the more I drew and the more I worked at it, I began to see some other possibilities. It was interesting to see the kinds of things you could play with, and I did have fun, and still do have a lot of fun, playing with my ink work. There's lots of things you can do. Little bit of ink, little bit of watercolor really changes how a picture looks. I like this picture here as it really gives me a feel of what it's like walking along the beach, looking at the bay. It's pretty hard to be a pen artist and not to get involved in some Zentangle work. The patterning that you can do is so interesting, and it does really get you into some intricate, complicated designs. I found that was fascinating for me, and I love to play with it. It wasn't long before I started to integrate that with my animals and birds. There was lots of ways I could do that, and I tried several. Here I have my realistic animals, but with my fantasy world. And I went into a whole series of this. I liked what was happening and had lots of fun with it. I also like to teach, so it wasn't long before I was teaching and doing Christmas cards and spring cards and really introducing people to new ways of drawing. I think many people feel that pen work is very limited and it's not used often in art today. But I find that pen work and line work has many different places in your work. One of the things I like to do is to play with the idea of my realism, which you know that I love, and abstract. I like that movement of the eye movement that it creates. And I find using the pen has introduced me into many different ways of doing that. The pandemic has certainly given us a lot more time in the studio. And for me, I've used it as an experimental time. Ducks on the Water is one of my new projects that I had started during the pandemic. Here I've used monoprints to create my pages with acrylic paint and then use them to draw my Ducks on the Water story. I found this a really exciting and interesting project, and it certainly opened my eyes to some of the things that I could do with my ink work that I hadn't considered before. I find that playing with my pens helps me to become less serious, and I'm able to have a lot more fun with my art. I dabble with lots of little things. Here I was working with pumpkins, and then I played with some of my animals and having them in little scenes. I find because pens are easy to grab and get to work, you can quickly come up with a project and it's very satisfying. Every pen artist has their own preference for pens. I like permanent pens. I like the Molotow acrylic pens, and I've just started using the Copic multiliners, which are kind of nice. The Microns and the Staedtlers have always been my mainstay. And of course the colored pens in the Staedtlers and the Microns are fun to play with and really inspire you to try different things. One of the things I like to do is to combine them with colored pencil. You get neat designs. I think for me, the reason that ink work is so much fun and the reason I enjoy it so much is it takes me where I want to be. I like to be outside and I like to draw what I see in nature. As I became more confident in my pen work, I started to branch out into other areas. One of the things I did was start to take students out for outdoor sketching. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and it has turned into a wonderful experience both for them and for myself. For many of my students, it is the first time they've ever done that, and they really find it an enjoyable experience. But really, how nice can it be to sit in the shade of a big old cottonwood and listen to the trickling water over the rocks as you're busy working on a drawing. So most of the work that I've shown you so far has been my sketchbook work, where I have been learning and playing with my ink work. But my ink work has definitely entered into the studio and into my more formal fine arts pieces. I really enjoy using the Zentangle patterns and mixing them with my wildlife. I enjoy doing the outdoor sketching and creating a finished piece while I'm there. I enjoy the way that my ink works with the watercolor, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. My newest series is called Deep in the Forest. To me, it really captures everything I have been working on this year. Bringing more depth into my ink work and finished pieces, designing work that zooms in and explores little micro environments, and bringing new colors into my work. I'm also excited by this series as it allows me to create work that not only features my ink work, but the colors and excitement I feel when hiking in the backwoods. I love to get lost in my drawing. I enjoy the line work and watching it come alive on my paper. Working with ink has taught me many things that I have carried over into my other work. I think the most important is the value of that strong dark. It really brings drama and depth into my work. Working with ink has also helped me understand the power of suggestion. The smallest mark or squiggle can mean so much if it is in the right context. And finally, the need to plan. Drawing with permanent ink means that there are no redos. It's important to always be looking ahead. In a strange way, this has made me more confident, and I feel able to take on more and bigger drawing challenges without feeling scared. I hope you have enjoyed this peek into the world of a pen artist. I wanted to show you the magic of a sharp black line, how it can dance across your paper and demand your attention. I also wanted to entice you to put away your brushes for a few minutes to experience the joy of drawing with ink. At this time, I would like to take the opportunity to thank SAGA, the Surrey Art Gallery Association, for this opportunity to share my work and my passion. Maybe one day you too will join me to go out sketching with a pen. I look forward to that.